there is work to be done amongst the British Muslim community to help them understand, educate the emotions, the trauma that an ordinary British Jewish person goes through when they also witness the horrific scenes on their screens. And we can, I think, only tackle this growing anti-Semitism and other forms of hatred if we work together.
Religious leaders have been coming together in the aftermath of today's attack in Greater Manchester, which has killed 2 people, a terror attack, of course, on a synagogue in Greater Manchester. Both the Jewish and Muslim communities have been especially close, working especially closely together to tackle hatred since October the 7th and the following war in Gaza. Let's speak to Qari Asim now, who's an imam, co-chair of the British Muslim Network and chair of the Mosques and Imam National Advisory Board. Qari, thank you so much for being with us. Look, we've been hearing about different faith bodies reacting to today's attack. Just give me your comments on it. Where are your feelings this evening?
British Muslim scholars like myself are absolutely horrified by the violent attack in Manchester on the synagogue. Our thoughts and deepest sympathies are with the victims, their families, and the entire Jewish community who are understandably shaken and hurt, and especially this tragic event happening on one of the sacred days in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. So this act of violence is utterly abhorrent, and it has no place in our society. So places of worship must be safe havens, places where people can freely express their religious obligations and without fear, intimidation. But sadly, this attack really has shown that the religious hatred, whether it be anti-Semitism or other forms of hatred, including anti-Muslim hatred, is on the rise. And unless we stand together, those who wish to divide communities, to sow the seeds of hatred and division, will carry on causing havoc and loss of lives in our own streets.
What are your feelings? We were just speaking to our northern editor there, the northern editor of the Sunday Times, who was talking about speaking to various Jewish people outside the synagogue today, and they were recounting how instances of anti-Semitism have increased dramatically. People who never encountered anything as young people or in their 20s, but now in their 50s and 60s are encountering, just for wearing a skull cap, wearing a kippah, getting direct anti-Semitism. He described one person who was sat in a pub and someone came up to them and said, "What do you think about the war in Gaza then?" And obviously didn't receive a satisfactory response, and then went on to pour a pint over this person's head. It appears that the war in Gaza is causing the Jewish community here to be associated with Israel and the actions of Israel, and they are receiving abuse for that.
The bloodshed and violence in Gaza has caused huge pain and trauma to the communities across the world. But we must not let the violence and bloodshed and war in Gaza to be spilled over on our streets. The poison of abroad should not be coming onto our streets and threatening anyone. And that's why senior rabbis and imams entered into this agreement a few months ago, which was endorsed by His Majesty the King, known as the Drumline Accords. We said no matter how difficult the conversation may be, we must stand together and have those shared values implemented in our lives. The Jewish and the Muslim communities have a long and rich tradition of working together, and therefore I think the time is right now that we must stand together and must not let any form of violence, bloodshed, starvation, what it might be, happening in Gaza, on our streets, in our neighborhoods. We must not let that hatred and division to fall us apart.
Look, I mean, to be absolutely frank, clearly there is work to be done in all of our communities in terms of how we consider Jewish people. We're conflating someone who is of Jewish religion here with the actions of the Israeli government. I think we can say that as a general, but I also wonder, being absolutely frank, whether there is work to be done in the British Muslim community on trying to garner understanding and trying to stamp out anti-Semitism, particularly with October the 7th and the war in Gaza as the backdrop, perhaps fueling potentially people who have low opinions of Jewish people because of the association of Israel.
So, as a British Muslim scholar, I am absolutely clear that anti-Semitism in all of its forms is unacceptable. Anti-Semitism in all of its forms is totally unacceptable, and absolutely, in like many of the communities, there is work to be done amongst the British Muslim community to help them understand, educate the emotions, the trauma that an ordinary British Jewish person goes through when they also witness the horrific scenes on their screens. And we can, I think, only tackle this growing anti-Semitism and other forms of hatred if we work together, if we speak to each other, if we get to know each other, if we reach out to each other. And that's why the Drumlining Accords was really important, that we need to work together collectively to stamp out any form of hatred.
Very briefly, Qari, because I've run over on time here, but I would like to know, there's a planned protest against the prescription of Palestine action planned in London for this weekend. Police have asked them to cancel so resources can be used to protect Jewish and Muslim communities. Do you endorse that? Should that protest, in light of what's happened today, be cancelled?
I think it's important that we, as a nation, we realize that this unprecedented event that's happened in the last 2 years, and we accordingly, the authorities take the appropriate action to help people understand and mourn with people the loss of lives that we've experienced in this country.
But I wonder whether it's appropriate. I wonder whether you think it's still appropriate for that protest to take place or not.
I think we need to stand together with the Jewish community, and therefore the authorities need to take appropriate action regarding any planned protests.
All right. Well, look, thank you for speaking to us. I do appreciate it. Qari Asim, who's an imam co-chair at the British Muslim Network. Thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.